So that's going to take us to our next story, which came out from Alex Sherman, who reports on WWE a decent amount when it comes to their media rights and such with CNBC. And I'm just going to read a bit from his report that he put out on late Wednesday. That WWE is in talks with state gambling regulators in Colorado and Michigan to legalize betting on high-profile matches, according to people familiar with the matter. WWE is working with the account firm EY, not Eric Young, to secure scripted match results in hopes that it will convince regulators there's no chance of results leaking to the public, said the people, who asked not to be named because the discussions are private. I love this idea of we're going to have these results under lock and key that will not get out as this very sensitive negotiations is being leaked to a reporter. But nonetheless.
Yeah.
EY, also known as Ernst & Young, have historically worked with award shows, including the Academy Awards and the Emmys, to keep results a secret. I'm going to just skip down here. This is just about the Academy Awards and kind of the parallel they're trying to make WWE is. A WWE spokesman declined to comment. A spokesperson for EY couldn't immediately be reached for comment. According to a Michigan gaming spokesperson, the Michigan Gaming Control Board publishes a sports wagering catalog. When updates to the catalog are approved, the information is shared publicly through the agency's website. Okay, same here with Colorado. If WWE succeeds in its bid to legalize gambling on matches, it could open the door for legalized betting on other guarded, secret, scripted events, such as future character deaths in TV series. Allowing gambling on certain WWE matches would alter how matches are produced and how storylines are created. In discussions about how gambling on wrestling could work, WWE executives have proposed that scripted results of matches be locked in months ahead of time, according to people familiar with the matter. The wrestlers themselves wouldn't know whether they were winning or losing until shortly before a match takes place, said the people. For example, the WWE could lock the results of WrestleMania's main event months ahead of time based on a scripted storyline that hinged to the winner of January's Royal Rumble. Betting on the match could then take place between the end of the Royal Rumble and up to days or even hours before WrestleMania, when the wrestlers and others in the show's production would learn the results. What could go wrong? The introduction of legalized gambling could give WWE an increased appeal to a new set of fans while significantly altering creative storylines. Paul Levesque took over as head of creative operations from Vince McMahon last July. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of this. Again, they are in talks, it seems, with two states regarding this. And I know a lot of people are going to bring up the DraftKings agreement that WWE and AEW, for that matter, have. And I am not an expert on DraftKings, do not use it. But DraftKings, from my understanding, it's sort of like, yes, it's gambling, but my understanding is that it's also somewhat points-based that they get around. It's not matches that you can bet on. It's all a series of prop bets that is somewhat different than just outright winners and losers. But this would be like, this is just, jumping on what many sports leagues are with legalized sports gambling, and where does professional wrestling fall when these are controllable outcomes, and how that could obviously be manipulated. Obviously, betting on professional wrestling exists, but we're talking about offshore betting outfits, or not in the legalized sense with some of these like gaming control boards in different states. But the fact that it is this detailed in this report tells me that this is more than just kicking the tires on this. They would be willing to radically alter how they produce pro wrestling, which to me almost gets away from what this industry is. And first of all, Wade, just some of your overall thoughts. And do you do a lot of red flags come up for you here? And do you see this as something even viable, as this is certainly in line with WWE's ability to what are we currently doing that can make us more revenue? And sports gambling is a natural that they would fall under, but this is not UFC, and that's a whole nother bag of fish, or bag of worms, because we've seen just the problems they have had when it comes to gambling.
Yeah. My immediate reaction to any discussion of professional wrestling and gambling, at least, maybe outside your circle of friends, and in some sort of like, legitimate setting, is concern. Just knowing how professional wrestling is put together, and how, I guess, most of the time, like, results are relatively predictable, and I suppose that would be reflected in the betting odds. But I just have a lot of concern, because anytime you have people that can dictate the direct result of the thing that you are betting on, there's bound to be corruption. The idea that they could fix, like they could, set a result in stone and not touch it and keep it locked under this, what, like these sort of accounting firms, is really fascinating to me, but one that completely changes like my impression of how professional wrestling is done. I
it would eliminate, like, it's it's funny because on the one hand, if you are just strictly of the Vince McMahon style of professional wrestling, all these decades where the notorious stories of stuff being ripped up the day of, finishes to major matches, like the Undertaker, his streak ending and learning the day of, like these ideas that, man, if you had something like this that would handcuff you to long-term plans, great. But on the other hand, it's like it completely negates any chance of imagine locking in Elimination Chamber in November, and and you're suspended from a character catching fire and trying to ride any momentum. And
or like, various other reasons why you might want to change a result on the fly. Let's say you get word that somebody is hurt, injured. Yeah, exactly. And they only have enough to, like the Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins Hell in a Cell match, for instance. What if Seth was supposed to go over for that one? And I suppose you in wrestling, you could have had Seth win and, Cody just go away. I suppose that would have been okay. It just, maybe it's not impossible, John. It certainly hasn't been attempted yet. And maybe it's actually possible. I'm kind of open to seeing how it could be done, because it seems like they're very serious about this.
They are, but it to me would be something that it just, like, it's interesting because I was actually listening to a show today just about the, like, betting on the Academy Awards, and the thing is, it's like you have this, this group of voters, and it still is like it's such a small amount of people that would even have access to something like that. Whereas this, it is like, would this make a writing team redundant? Like, how many people would need to know your results several months out? And then you're plotting the television, and your performers are not going to know the direction of where you're going. And then it's just, and this industry especially, it's just, listen, there are loose lips in every industry, and professional wrestling is certainly not apart from that. It's like finding out, like, plans in advance. I don't want to say it's like super easy, but it's like you come across it fairly, like, it's like word spreads, and I don't know if that would really change all that much here. And it's just, I look at the James Krause situation in MMA and just look at what they just went through, that whole saga. And to me, professional wrestling is just so much more rife for that kind of thing. Yeah. Say nothing of the fact of, talent that would, if you are a lower end talent and there's an ability to monetize information that you will have to be privy to at some point in all of this. It's just, to me, there's a lot that would come with this that I just don't know if the revenue that WWE would be able to generate from this would be worth the potential hassles. And
they clearly think it is, if they're going this far, with entertaining the idea. Like, it tells me that they are willing to completely shift the way that they are, or at least slightly adjust, in a major way, the way that they plan these professional wrestling outcomes. There must either be that much money to be made, or they are that confident that they can tell long-term stories and stick to their plans.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch. I would certainly question, like, how realistic this would be, and ultimately these state gaming commissions from wanting to get into this. But the argument is going to be, if you can bet on things like the Academy Awards, if you can bet on non-sports, then professional
reality
wrestling,
shows, all
of that stuff. Yeah. And I guess this to me is one that this can be manipulated a lot more than, say, who's going to win Best Picture. It's like it's not like somebody can just change the votes to reflect the odds to make a killing off of. Like, it's still talent that could easily go against something in the ring. Like ultimately, they're the ones who have to play these things out on camera. It's just to me a lot of red flags that come up with this, but certainly an interesting story when this popped up, and did not surprise me though that WWE would be looking at this, because I think they look at giant revenue making opportunities. Sports wagering is a huge market that we have seen them dance around with the DraftKings sponsorship, and the fact that it is something that is out there that already exists. There are people wagering money on professional wrestling matches that WWE does not get any cut of when it's these offshore accounts and such.